Thank you for the introduction. I'm carrying on. So on Thursday, the 12th of July, I was thrown into chaos. I had been working for just 4 weeks and a bit for a company near Stafford and had left a job to go and work for them. A company who didn't want women working for them. So I thought it was the right move. However, red flags had begun to show and I wasn't sure I had made the right choice. The Monday prior, I had been on a Teams call with my line manager and asked him how am I doing into a 3-month probation, to be told I was doing fine, doing great, I was a strong buyer, and that there were no concerns. Tuesday I was in my office day and I had been having to use my walking stick. Some of you have seen me before where I've had to use crutches or a stick to walk due to a degenerative disease. And I had to use my stick on that day and I was struggling to walk around the office, but I still got my work done and I still attended work. The Wednesday was working from home and I was being questioned about things that had happened before my time there. However, I had resolved the problem and I did it as quickly as possible. However, on Thursday morning I was brought into a meeting and with no explanation at all I was told I would no longer have a job. There was no opportunity to be given a chance to improve or even work out why I had no longer got a job. I just was told that it was a business decision and I couldn't keep up with the pace and therefore I was not a good fit. I was unemployed at a time, the worst time with mortgage rates going up, the living crisis and a downturn in construction, which is the industry in which my husband works even, and with no plausible reason why. The only thought I had was it was because I was disabled and therefore a later risk to the business. I later discovered that they never even advertised my role, but I played myself with the possible reasons for why, and morning and night I prayed. Now, despite the original fear, I reminded myself that our God had already got me through some worse times and some very hard times. I handed it over to him, although it was hard, with full of faith, and as the world lets me down every day, but God never has. My husband even tried to question my faith, but I was adamant the devil was not going to win this fight and calmly rebuked my husband's line of thought and questioning. Over the weekend, I went to my bookcase, and in there on the bookshelf was many books that my friend Penny, who sometimes comes here, had bought me prior. And there was one book that caught my eye, and it was called Begin Again by Max Lucado. Now, I'm awful at reading. I favour my phone and my gaming over anything else, especially when I want to escape the world. However, I had started to read. Interviews started to come through, 3 of them. Monday's team interview was offered an interview, actually in the interview, in the first one, something that the agency claimed that they'd never heard of before. Tuesday, 2 interviews, one straight after the other, literally. I had 4 minutes in between to get to a different location. And I was offered a job in the very first, in the first interview there and then, but not the job I was originally applying for. This one was too good to be true. The next interview after that also went straight into a second interview. So I was being invited back. So I had 3 jobs, interviews, and eventually 3 job offers. While sitting in the car park of the first interview, I prayed to Jesus to be with me there, and likewise with all the others that followed. Quickly it became a prayer of guidance in what direction he wanted me to go in. Jesus never let me down in any of those interviews, clearly, because something that you don't see every day happens. You don't normally get invited back for a second interview, let alone a job offer while you're actually there, saying, we want to take you on. But the first job offer was crazy. It was crazy money. It was an offer of $45,000 a year. It offered everything I've ever dreamed of: managerial, progression, travelling the world. But our God is a God of whispers. What was the cost? And why was I being reminded of a historical problem where I was bullied by a manager to the point where my body forgot how to function and I forgot how to breathe? Could I really do this? The second job offer was sitting in the interview where I had the warning, I actually heard a voice in my head saying, this is just like them, the company that just let me go. And it was just a whisper, and all of a sudden the whole interview just took a different direction. And I began to doubt myself and my direction until I read the page in my book, page 18, which is convenient because I've forgotten my handbag. Could you go get my handbag? I need my book. Sorry. I should have brought that book up with me. Thank you. So page 18. So this is the story of Jairus when his daughter had died and he'd come to Jesus to ask for his help to heal her. But before they'd got to the house, she'd already passed away. But Jesus paid no attention to what they said. I love that line. It describes the critical principle of seeing the unseen. And these are the words that stuck out to me. Ignore what people say. Block them out. Turn them off. Close your ears, and if you must, walk away. Ignore the ones that say it's too late to begin again. Disregard those who say you will never amount to anything. Turn a deaf ear to those who say you aren't smart enough, fast enough, tall enough, or big enough, or healthy enough. Ignore them. Jesus immediately turns to Jairus and pleads, don't be afraid, just believe. All my life, those words have haunted me. With every letdown and every put down, it has stopped me from in my tracks, and at times of needing it the most, these messages hit me hard, and I got quite emotional over it. However, the fear didn't take away, and I still couldn't feel good about my choices, and I didn't know why or what to do. I had been given 2 offers, one too good to be true, and although I was resolved to follow Jesus into the unseen, why was I still not happy, and why was my heart hurting? On Monday, the 3rd job offer, the way out, and the reason why I knew where to go and what lessons were being taught to me. My son, Joseph, is highly possibly autistic, and already he is worrying about going into year 6 and worrying about secondary school, and he is about to start the hardest 2 years of his life so far. If I took the 1st job offer, I wouldn't be there to support him. I would be in Germany most of the time, and I'd be running a company. The cost of that 1st job offer would have been my family, and it was in the meditations and my prayers that my focus was brought back into what was important. I had left the job to follow my own desire, and more because I valued myself in my job title and by my salary. And what I should have lived by was the fact of what kind of mother I was and if I was following God. In a 10-minute conversation, I had lost everything. I'd lost that job title, I'd lost that salary. But God is a good, caring God. And not only has he been there for me every step of the way in the last 2 weeks, teaching me the lessons over and over again, but he's given me back everything I'd lost. The job I took wasn't the highest paid offer, but it did match pound for pound what I've lost. It gave me back the job title that was important to me. It isn't the offer that offers me managerial progression, nor does it give me career progression, but it does promise me to allow me to put my family first and be there for my son Joseph while he goes through these tough few months. I just want to say thank you to those who have prayed for me over the last 2 weeks. There have been times where we didn't know if we were going to be able to pay the mortgage, we didn't know if I was going to be able to put fuel in my car, and my husband was convinced I wouldn't get another job because of my disabilities. And I want to say thank you for God for listening to my prayers and for guiding me through what felt like the woods when I felt alone and I lost, and for teaching me to listen to